It's time for the most interactive radio program in Las Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. It is Pushing the Limits time. Thank you so much for being here, broadcasting all over the place besides the FM AM dial. We're on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Oh, what did I forget? We're just about everywhere, so thank you for joining us. It's Monday. That means Chris Wynn in the house as my co-host today, and we have a lot to get to. We're going to do things a little differently today. You know, usually we do news, politics, hour one. We're kind of going to switch it a little bit today. We're going to do some sports entertainment stuff first hour. Then we're going to get to politics hour number two. We've got Gully, Scott Gulbranson from Silver and Black Today podcast going to be joining us here in about 5 minutes. The Raiders debacle, the embarrassment that took place over the weekend in Buffalo. We'll get to that. A lot of drama involving the Raiders, too, with Chandler Jones and Devontae Adams. And, oh, boy. Trump with another disastrous interview, this time on MSNBC. But the criticism I have is, believe it or not for Donald Trump. We'll explain why coming up in hour number two. A story that's made national news for all the wrong reasons. Horrible story. A couple teens stealing a car, hit and run, and then they kill a bicyclist who was actually a hero, a guy that was a retired police chief. It's just an awful story, and it made national news. So we'll get to all that stuff, C-Win. How's it going?
It's going great, Brian. Good to join you on a Monday. Of course, it was definitely a eventful weekend without question, both on the sports side and on the life side. Brian Shapiro, I got to give a congratulations. Kind of a bittersweet weekend for me from a family standpoint. Congratulations to my brother Jeff. Got married to his beautiful bride-to-be, Mulu,
Sorry to hear that.
New York. That was outstanding. So first marriage for my brother Jeff. So congratulations to him. And also heavenly birthday to my father. Passed away back in 2004. After a bout with leukemia. He would have been 77 years old yesterday. His birthday was yesterday, so he would have been 77. So
happy birthday to
my
Mr.
father,
Wynn.
Clifford Leroy Wynn Jr.
Happy birthday, Mr. Wynn. And
77.
I understand. You know, I remember, coming up in April will be my sister's birthday, and obviously that's all I'll be thinking about on that day. So I totally understand where you're coming from there. Happy birthday to your pops, and congratulations to your brother. And I got to tell you, I was talking to some friends. U2, arguably the biggest band in the world, one of the biggest bands in the world, period. Yeah. They converged to Las Vegas to film a music video downtown. Not the first time they did that, by the way. And I got a few text messages from some people, friends of mine that work downtown, about a half an hour before U2 recorded this video. And they said, bro, you got to get downtown. And I already had plans. I couldn't do it. The video is surreal. So here's the deal. U2 last week, they're in LA. All four original band members, by the way, and their drummer has been ill. So he hasn't been with the band for years. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool. He was here. They recorded this new song. It's called Atomic City. And the only place you can really hear it is, the audio from downtown. But anyway, it's a song about Las Vegas, which is so cool. So they're right in front of the plaza.
Yeah.
Right there on that road. And they have this stage that's on a truck, basically. And they roll the truck in, and then they roll another truck in, which is like the sound truck. And it's all four band members on this truck. They roll in there. They let all the fans, any fans that just happen to be lucky to be there, to be like 5 feet from the band. And then he starts talking a little bit about why they're there, which is super cool. And still haven't found what I'm looking for. He just starts just to kind of appease the crowd. He sings a little bit of that song. And then they go into this new song, and they're recording a music video for it. So you hear him singing it live, which I thought was really cool. It's just absolutely surreal that this stuff happens in Las Vegas and U2 performing downtown.
So here's the thing, Shap.
Yeah.
This is spur of the moment radio right here. I didn't tell you about this. So 2 nights ago, we weren't hanging out a couple nights ago. I was down there, man. I was down there with a friend of mine from work. and we were watching the Garage Boys, which is a cover band down there, at that exact same stage next to Circa. And so it was another C-win bad beat for the weekend, Shapiro. I've already had a ton of bad beats when it comes to the sports betting angle over the weekend, both in college football, baseball, as well as basketball and the NFL. But so one of the biggest bands in the world. By the way, I saw them back in 2005. I don't know if you were here in Vegas in 2005. But 2005, the Vertigo tour for U2 was here in Las Vegas.
And they're great.
And I'm not a huge U2 guy, but the tickets were pretty pricey. I believe I think he spent $250 on those tickets back in 2005. But it was a great show. I went with some friends who are big U2 fans, and they were tremendous in Los Angeles, or excuse me, here in Vegas at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. So so U2 without question, you're talking about one of the more iconic bands in the history of music.
Yeah, no question about that. And coming up here, by the way, in any minute now, we'll be joined by Scott Goldbrinson talking a little Raiders football. But yeah, this was kind of surreal and pretty cool. Mm-hmm. They just stroll in there and record this music video. And then he talked a little bit about the Sphere, because they're going to be performing at the Sphere. And he said that he took a tour of it with the band and they checked it out. And he said it was just awesome. Can't wait to do those shows. You're in the right place at the right time. Sometimes that happens in life, right? And I saw some of the videos on social media of people that, oh my God, I never saw U2 before, but this was different because you're like 5 feet from them. Yeah. You could literally be 5 feet from them. So amazing. And I believe the song, is that what it's called? Still haven't found what I'm looking for.
That was the video that was done back in 1980. What, 80? I want to say 81, 82.
That was right in front of Four Queens and Binions where they filmed a lot of that.
When they were just young bucks, just starting out, U2. Of course, filmed that video on Fremont Street back in the 80s. But it is great, Brian, isn't it, to get impromptu concerts like that from big stars. Obviously, we talked about Jimmy Buffett when he passed away, right? Jimmy Buffett is someone who did that a lot at Margaritaville. He'd go into his Margaritavilles, and you just happen to show up. You'd go up on stage and actually perform, right? And look. There's been stories about it here in Vegas, right, Brian? As far as Prince, when before he passed away, Prince would do like impromptu shows in Vegas, and I'm sure there's been a lot of stars that they've been here just to have a good time, and then all of a sudden they're dragged up on stage, if you want to call it dragged up there, and it's an impromptu kind of spur of the moment performance. And that's those are things that are going to be memorable for music fans all over the place.
No question, and I'm jealous for all the people that were downtown that were able to see that. Super cool. So let's switch topics here. Let's talk a little Raiders football. And I got to tell you, I said all week long that I thought the Raiders were in a lot of trouble. I also said that I think we're going to learn a lot about where this team is, where they're at, playing a really good football team on the road. I don't look at that Denver game and think about Denver's terrible. I don't look at that Denver game and think much of that at all. This is a really good football team, and I said I don't expect them to win, but let's see if they can remain competitive, and they did not. They started off really good, got off to a nice start. And then from there, they didn't score another touchdown. Defense was awful, soft. It seemed like the only person they were throwing the ball to, Devontae Adams at times, and then Devontae gets hurt. Maybe that was precautionary. We don't know. They were never competitive in this game. They lost all the physical battles, and they were exposed. And what I say about this Raiders team is this, and then we'll get to Gully. What I'm going to say is this. The Raiders are not a good football team. They're not one of the worst teams in the league. They're not horrible. They will beat the bad teams in the league. They will lose to any of the elite playoff teams in the league, and they will struggle and probably be 500 with the average teams in the league. Sorry, Raider Nation. The Raiders are not a good football team. They are a mediocre football team. They showed it yesterday, and I know what you're saying. Well, Brian, they were on the road against a Super Bowl contender. I get that. But they were never in the game. They were not competitive after the first 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about this team. It's not going to change now. This is the Raider team we have. Could they get better over the course of the year? They get Chandler Jones. Hopefully Devontae's healthy. You have one of the best receivers in football, one of the best running backs in football, and you couldn't even make the game competitive yesterday. Joining us right now. Chris, I want to get your thoughts on this, and I'll let you take over here, but I want to get Gully's thoughts as too. Let me just introduce him. Scott Goldbrinson, of course, the co-creator of the Silver and Black Today podcast. Nobody knows the Raiders better than he does. Scott, I do appreciate you coming on, my friend. How are you?
Thanks, man. We're here to talk about the big UNLV win, right? Is that what we're doing?
That's what
we could pivot, no problem at all, Mr. Scott Clover.
I'm just saying,
rebel action.
At least, it hasn't been very often that you talk about a football team in Las Vegas winning and it being UNLV. So exactly. I know we're going to get into the Raiders, but Barry Odom, big win for them. I know people say, oh, it's Vanderbilt, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. Huge win for that program. And hopefully
to say about that. Scott, Chris did bet against UNLV, so I just want to make that very clear. Number two, I agree with everything you just said. Doesn't matter how you get it done. I really like Barry Odom. I think he's doing all the right things. He's the right man for the job at the right time. We'll probably talk a little more UNLV football later, but I agree with you. Nice win for UNLV football, even though Vandy, not a very good team. They're in a very good conference, and that's a big win for any Mountain West team. So happy for UNLV football. As far as the Raiders go, very disappointing loss in just the way they lost. Scott, do you agree, disagree with anything I said to open up?
Disappointing? No, I don't disagree with any of it. I have to say, because I get a lot of heat for not wearing the silver and black colored glasses all the time. People tell me I'm too hard on them and that I'm negative and that because I grew up a Charger fan, I really hate the Raiders and it's all just a big ruse, all this kind of stuff. But really, I got suckered in. I bet on the Raiders. I thought they might keep it close. Ooh. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, it wasn't even close for all the reasons you mentioned. This team, and look, I after the fact was like, okay, you've been talking about how bad this defensive front can be. We thought it was better. You talked about the fact that they just can't find it on defense yet. And then offensively, that's the other thing to talk about. It comes down to complementary football, guys. I mean, the Raiders can't play defense against an elite unit like that. And then when they do, they can't play on offense. The Raiders are ranked near the bottom of the NFL in offense when you look at yards per game and points per game. 13.5 points per game ain't going to get it done against anybody, really. I mean, the only teams lower than them, I think, are the Bengals and somebody else. And we know what's happening with the Bengals. So yeah, I think this team, I picked them to win 7 games. And to your point, Brian, I think they can win 7 games against some of the teams they got later in the schedule.
So Gully and Brian, look, I got to push back a little bit here because there's been phrases used like, are we surprised by this? Or is this something we didn't expect? No, we didn't expect this, okay? And you guys already laid out reasons why this is something that is not out of the ordinary as far as this matchup between Buffalo and Las Vegas. Number one, the Bills are absolutely an aspirational team when it comes to not only the AFC playoffs, but a Super Bowl. Okay, this is a team that is expected to be one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. The Las Vegas Raiders are not that. Okay. Also, the Buffalo Bills coming off a game in which wild loss, of course, where they lose on in a game against the New York Jets, where they lose on a wild punt return at the end in overtime. So they are absolutely fired up, looking to come out and kind of right the ship there when it came to that. The Raiders, I mean, and Brian also touched on this too. It kind of matters, right? When Devontae Adams goes out and is under concussion protocol, when you have your best wide receiver, it kind of matters. Okay, when Josh Jacobs, one of the best running backs in the NFL, has negative yardage from the running standpoint, from a rushing standpoint. The Raiders, they're not on level with the Buffalo Bills. I'm sorry. I know Raider Nation out there is probably going to be like, oh, you're just a hater, whatever. No, I mean, they're just not. These are 2 teams that are, on 2 different spectrums in the National Football League as far as expectations, Gully. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all. I've been saying that all week, but I will say, here's the but. Ready? Yeah. The but is in the NFL, as you know. I mean, I use the Bengals as the example, right? Joe Burrow, that game against Cleveland, horrible. They play horrible against Cleveland anyway. So they come home against a really tough Baltimore team, and you figure, okay, they're going to come out of it. It's their home game. They got to win this game. It's a divisional game, and they look like crap too. So I think some of the hope was that the Raiders may catch the Bills at a time when they're down, coming off that loss. Teams react one of 2 ways, right, Chris? They either come out and do what the Bills do and just kick ass, or they kind of just struggle again. I mean, look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs won, but they struggled again, right? They don't look themselves. And so I think that was a bit of the hope is, hey, if you can catch the Bills early season when they're not their best, then just maybe. But we found out that Josh Allen was the excellent Josh Allen. And the game plan, talk about coaching, this is where Patrick Graham on the defense has got some explaining to do, which is the idea that, look, he tried to shut down the long passes, which they did. So what does Josh Allen do? He's gonna kill you by 1,000 pinpricks. He's going to pass to the tight end. He's going to throw the ball because you're playing a zone. And then you're not going to adjust to it because for whatever reason, that's your game plan. You're going to stick with it. And so they just took what they could. And that's what good teams do.
Yeah, and Josh Daniels didn't make the proper adjustments that he needed to make, and the drama off the field is, of course, with Chandler Jones. We can talk about that too, and the bizarre rants he's going on Twitter and the bizarre things that he's saying. That's a distraction. Luckily, we received some good news right earlier today that Davante Adams has been cleared, so he's going to be okay. So that's the one good news coming out of that thing. I mean, listen, I'm with you, Scott, and Raider fans get angry at me. I'm just being honest here. This is not a very good football team. This is not a good football team. You have the talent. You have a capable quarterback in Garoppolo. I don't care if it's Garoppolo or Carr. The bottom line to me is that this is not the right coaching staff for the job. And I know some people are going to be saying, Brian, you're overreacting. We're only a few games into the season. I'm also going by last season, what I saw. I don't like what I'm seeing so far. They're an average football team at best. And, I'm sorry. I'm just not buying into this team and what's going to happen. I don't think they have any chance of making the playoffs.
Well, I'm perplexed by the offense, guys, and you tell me what you think here because and it's not everybody wants to focus on the quarterback. I get why. Okay, he's a system quarterback, and you saw at times last week when he was rolling, and he's fine in that role. But to me, I don't understand. So you have all these tools on offense. And you're not using them. So you have Adams. Yes, he's getting his reception. You have Michael Mayer, who you got in the second round. And he had one reception yesterday. Austin Hooper had one reception on Sunday. Okay, so you're not using – Jimmy Garoppolo is only throwing to two people. He's throwing to Davante Adams, and he's throwing to Josh Jacobs. Okay, so there's an issue there. What's going on? They're not using Hunter Renfrow. We've talked about that before. Yep. But there's something going on here where they're not getting on the same page offensively. The offensive line is the reason, in my view. They – were fine in pass blocking a week ago. They were okay in pass blocking against the Bills. Very good defensive front, but they cannot run block. People were coming on our postgame show yesterday saying, Josh Jacobs is fat. He can't run, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, if somebody has three guys on your body when you get handed the ball, what do you want him to do? You want him to get 30 yards when there's three guys in the backfield tackling him as he gets the ball from the quarterback? Let's be real here. The offensive line is not doing its job. And you guys talked about it when we came on. You win and lose in the NFL, believe it or not, quarterback or not, in the trenches. Yep. And they got dominant. If you see some of the film I was watching this morning, I shouldn't have done it while I was eating. I'm watching the film, and I'm not kidding you, 10 or 12 different plays. Yeah. The Buffalo offensive line knocked back the Raiders' interior defensive line 4 or 5 yards back. That's hard to do in the NFL.
Listen, I'm just going to be honest here. In my opinion, the Raiders have the tools to be a competitive football team and make a run to the playoffs. Yeah, competitive. Yeah. There are, in my opinion, two reasons why the Raiders are not going to be that this year. And this is my personal opinion. I don't think that's going to happen. Josh McDaniels, the coaching staff, and Mark Davis. I like Mark Davis as a person. I think he's a really nice guy. Horrible decision making, in my opinion, again. And I'm just going to, Josh McDaniels not a good head football coach. I know I keep saying that over and over and over again, but I'm going to keep saying it until he tells me otherwise. I mean, the play calling yesterday was an absolute joke. I mean, I thought Marcus Arroyo was on the sidelines. I don't understand what's going on. And listen, the problem that Raiders fans have here, this is Mark Davis's guy. He hired Josh McDaniels. Unless Josh only wins 2 or 3 games this year, he ain't going anywhere. Josh McDaniels is going to come back for year 3. So all these fans out there on social media, he's going to go. He's on the hot seat. No, he's not. You win 5-6 games. He's coming back next year, and it's going to be more mediocrity. I'm sorry. I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen.
Well, so go ahead,
let's hit you with it, Gully. All right. Moving forward, the first game of the season at the Al at the Legion Stadium coming up this week, Sunday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll get a chance to see the second week version of the Steelers tonight as they take on their rival in the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns. But look, Pittsburgh's going to look to bounce back when they come here. And as Brian pointed out, you're going to get Davante Adams back in the mix. Of course, that was a real concern coming out of this Buffalo game, whether or not he was going to be healthy or not. But I mean, what do you see changing? What do you think are the big keys when it comes to the silver and black as they face the Pittsburgh Steelers for Sunday Night Football coming up here in Las Vegas next week?
Well, a huge game for all the reasons you mentioned, but I think a couple things. One is you got to see production on that defensive line. Remember, now let's forget about Josh McDaniels for a second and talk about Dave Ziegler, the GM. They traded away one of their draft picks to the Kansas City Chiefs, one of their players, interior defensive linemen, because they felt they were so deep up front on defense. Okay. So they did that. They felt great going into the season with what they got, and they're not performing. So they need to perform against Pittsburgh. And actually, Pittsburgh, in my view, is just what the doctor ordered. Now we got to see what they do tonight against Cleveland. But listen, we've just like the Denver Broncos, we've been sold a bill of goods with the Steelers from the national media. Well, the Steelers are going to be so good. Kenny Pickett, listen, I don't know if you saw them last week against the 49ers. Not very good. They're banged up on defense. So the Raiders have an opportunity, I think, in this game to get healthy against a team they should beat at home. I know it's a tough game. It's on Sunday Night Football. You'll have some Steelers fans in the house, but I just think that this game is going to be massive for the Raiders because they have to do that, and then they have to go to LA to play Chargers at the Raiders vacation home down at SoFi.
Yeah, I think this is a game. I think I'm speaking obviosities here that the Raiders absolutely have to have. This is a game that they should win. I don't think Pittsburgh is very good. So we'll see what happens today. I don't think Pittsburgh is a very good football team. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Let me ask you a question about Chandler Jones. He seems to be going nuts on social media, making some very bizarre statements, talking about his owner, which is a no player should be doing that. What are your thoughts on the mess and what's taking place with Chandler Jones off the field?
I just can't figure it out. Like, sometimes I'm feeling like, okay, he's going through a mental episode and I have compassion for him, right? Because mental health is a serious issue. And when people are dealing with it, especially if they start to do it publicly, you get really concerned for that person, let alone from football. But then some of this other stuff, I mean, he posted today himself in the mirror making comments about wanting to play, and he's really thin. Like, I can't imagine putting him on a football field right now. He's small. So I don't know what's going on there. He's alleging all this weird stuff. I would expect that something, now the Raiders are home, I would expect something to be done this week. They got to do something. I mean, there has to be a way for them to get away from this. Help the guy if he needs help, of course. But clearly his days as a Raider playing are over for good. And the team, how distracted I don't think they're that distracted by it, but also I'm not in the building. I don't know how close he was. I do know it's hurt them on the field because they have not had an answer at the other defensive end. And had he come back and had he been better than he was last year, I think they'd be in better shape.
So, Brian, I'm in the Gully camp when it comes to this Raider team offensively. I just don't get it at times. I can't figure out what's going on as far as their approach and their and how they're handling things. Look, I get it. You got pieces like the likes of Austin Hooper, right? And you got Mayer, you've got Carter, you got Trey Tucker. But correct me if I'm wrong. Where is Hunter Renfrow, Brent? Right? What, one target yesterday in the offense? Yeah. One target. I could be. Call me crazy, guys. Call me nuts. But wasn't he in the Pro Bowl just a matter of months ago? Wasn't this guy in the Pro Bowl? What is going on, Gully, with this Raiders offense, my friend?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it starts with the line, as I mentioned, but especially from the running game. You have to, in this system, you have to be able to establish the run to some degree. I'm not saying you got to go have Josh Jacobs have 150 yards every game. That's not possible. But you do need to establish it enough where you can then expand the offense a little bit and start passing how you want to, especially when you're talking about play action. So you look at this and you look at Hunter Renfrow. On our show, we've been talking about for months, guys, that Hunter Renfrow was on the outs. That if the Raiders were smart, not because he's not a good player or he's a good guy. I mean, he used to be a weekly guest on my show when I was in Vegas. But I will tell you this, it's just been on the wall for whatever reason. I don't know why they've not done it. They brought in other slot receivers. They have Trey Tucker. I think they should play Trey Tucker more. He was only active this week, and I know he's not perfect and he's a developmental player. But did you see his speed? If I'm going to have a guy in the slot, why not give him a shot? Your offense is doing nothing. Get the fastest guy on the team out there and give him some opportunities. When he gets the opportunities, he seems to do it. The run he had, the 34-yard run, was the longest run by a Raider at his first NFL run. Sans 2, Jalon Richard had a 75-yard at 91. But still, the kid has some amazing speed and skill. Let's do it. If you're not going to use Hunter Renfrow, then put the kid in and give him a shot.
I agree with both of you, and you know what I'm going to say.
Here it comes. Here
Josh,
it comes, Gully.
Josh McDaniels. Anyway, Gully, obviously a huge game this weekend, a must-win for the Raiders if they want to be in the conversation. Come playoff time. I know it's really early in the season, but if there's ever a
timeout, must win.
You
Gully,
you
I don't know
can't
about
lose.
that.
You lose.
They're 1-1, bro.
You start off the season
Must win.
losing to Pittsburgh at home. You put yourself behind the 8 ball. I think we all could
Wait a
agree
minute,
on
timeout.
that.
They're not gonna be. Are they favored right now, Gully?
No, they're a 1-point underdog.
Underdogs, Brian, in this game.
This is a game.
They're expected to lose by Vegas standards.
This is one of the games where I think, Scott, I think you'll agree with me on this, where you're going to make a run for the playoffs and win some football games. You don't want to start off the season 1-2, and you don't want to lose at home to what I would consider a bad Pittsburgh football team, I should say.
I mean, it's. I don't know. I would call it a must win, but it's a gotta win almost. It's like a step below that, But I think you're right from a mental perspective and from a momentum perspective, because you could very easily go on the road. Now, the Raiders, even when they're not playing well, for whatever reason, the division rivalry, they've always played the Chargers well, and it helps when you have Brandon Staley as a coach because his defense crumbles every single game. So that gives you a chance too because of bad coaching. But if the Raiders don't beat Pittsburgh and then have to go to LA and face the Chargers, and the Chargers get it together this week, then you're facing you might be 1-3, right?
Exactly.
So I think from that perspective, you got to win home games. You just got to win home games. Yeah. And so I think it's going to be a big one, but it's hard. I see why they're underdogs, even to a Pittsburgh team that's not very good, because what have they shown? They can't block, they can't rush the passer. And they can't move the ball. So if I'm an odds maker, heck yeah, I'm putting this line the same spot they have it right now.
So last week, I said as far as the spread goes, I love Buffalo. I'm going to tell you right now, this is just my personal opinion because I think some of these Raiders players have a lot of pride. I think the Raiders get it done this weekend. Pittsburgh and everything you said is very fair, Scott. All those questions you bring up about the Raiders, I agree. I think, and I hope I'm right, they're going to find a way to get it done at home again with the home crowd and beat Pittsburgh. But if they don't, they're really behind the 8 ball. Gully, it is always a pleasure having you on the show. Always appreciate it, my friend. I hope we're talking about a Raider W come this time next week, my friend. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot more questions that need to be answered. You do a great job covering this team. Always enjoy it, and look forward to talking to you again next week, my friend.
Rebels.
Yeah, that's right.
Rebels.
There you go, gentlemen. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
Thanks, Scott. Always appreciate it, Gully. Thank you so much. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. I got to be honest with you. I do want to talk UNLV football. I want to talk Aces, but I also have ADD, Chris, and I'm chomping at the bits to get to this Donald Trump interview on MSNBC. So I think we're going to do that next. Is that okay, Chris?
You can do whatever you want.
All right,
it's your show, Brian Shapiro.
Well, I'm asking for your.
I'm here for one.
I'm asking for your professional
opinion.
opinion.
It's a Monday appearance, my friend. Absolutely.
I was just asking for your professional opinion.
We can stick and move, my friend.
We'll do some more sports coming up in hour 2, but we got to talk about this crazy Donald Trump interview. But guess what? My criticism isn't for Donald Trump. It's for somebody else. I'll explain what that means, and I think Chris knows what I'm talking about. We'll talk about that next segment. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Remy Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're Traveling in a hurry? They can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call. 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Ants. Tell them I sent you.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits. Check out my favorite gaming bar in town, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Be heading out there. I might be watching some Monday Night Football there today. We got a nice doubleheader. Maybe we'd see when. Maybe he'll play a little caveman Keno out there. I don't know. But
yeah, what's the deal, Shapiro, with the double headers for Monday Night Football on week? I get it. Maybe week 1, if you're going to put 2 games on.
I don't know.
On the docket, but in week 2, it just seems a little strange.
I don't know, but I am going to put you on the spot right now, and I want you to finish my Jackson's live read. So go ahead. See when on the spot right now.
Well, Jackson Bar and Grill, you're talking about the premier gaming establishment in Las Vegas, the corner of Jones and Flamingo. You want to talk about a tremendous menu. It's not just bar food, folks. Outstanding food across the board. Also, a lot of gaming specials there as well, too. We are coming up on Vegas Golden Knights season as well, too. Pass the puck promotions across the board, right, Brian Shapiro, when it comes to Jackson's Bar and Grill. You can find it at the corner of Jones and Flamingo, folks. It is the premier gaming bar in all of Las Vegas.
The corner of Chandler Jones and Crazy. Yes, Jackson Bar. See, that's why Chris is a radio professional. You hear that live
on
read?
The spot. You're making me do a read. You know what?
Live read on the spot. The man's just a radio.
No hiccups.
What can I say? It's hard.
No stuttering.
Hard for me.
No nothing.
Hard for me to compliment people, but I do it now and then. Anyway, Chris, I'm chomping at the bits here. We will get back to sports. We will talk a little UNLV football. Congratulations to them. Really exciting game, by the way. Yep. Maybe not a very well played game, but an exciting game. And we'll talk a little Aces basketball.
They close out their first the opening round series in the WNBA playoffs.
I do want to talk a little bit about the Nevada Broadcasters Hall of Fame. I'll talk about that award as well because I have some opinions on that. We're going to talk a little bit about this horrible situation that took place in, I believe, in Summerlin, where 2 teens steal a car and kill somebody. It made national news because they were live streaming it. So we'll talk about that later on. All right, so Chris, anybody who knows me knows I do have a lot of criticisms for Donald Trump. Yeah, I do. I know that might surprise some people.
Shocker.
Besides the fact that he's just an atrocious human being and a liar and dangerous for the country. So I always had some respect for Kristen Welch. If you don't know who Kristen Welch is, she is been working at MSNBC.
Welker.
I'm sorry. Did I say Welch? Welker.
Yes,
I'm sorry. She has been the White House correspondent, the reporter for MSNBC for years now. And I
For
thought
NBC News. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. And I think she's done a pretty good job. So she's taking over for Beat the Press for Chuck Todd, who's stepping down. And I said, okay, she's doing an interview with Trump. Hopefully she'll hold him to the fire, right? This interview was an absolute joke on a number of different fronts. First of all, when you interview somebody and you have time to, it's one thing if you only have like 5 or 10 minutes with somebody. But if you have an hour and 15 minutes with somebody, you need to be able to challenge them, right? I mean, I had, again, a couple Republicans in studio last week who I think are nice people, but I did challenge them, and you have to be able to challenge people when you have the time to do so. She didn't do that. She let him spread his rants, lies, and called him Mr. President, God knows how many times, and took him as like a serious guy. And I was really disappointed in her, and I think she really, MSNBC should really think twice, or I should say Meet the Press show should really think twice about keeping her there. I can tell you right now, if it was, I'll just name you a few names. Jim Acosta. Like him or hate him, he would challenge Donald Trump, and he would let him spew garbage. And maybe even some others on CNN, like Jake Tapper. I think he would do a really good job, even maybe an Anderson Cooper. But I thought that she did a terrible job, and I wanted to start off by saying that I was really disappointed in her. With that being said, Chris, I want to play you a cut, and I want to get your reaction to it. We're going to play you a few excerpts from this interview over the weekend. This is Donald Trump, again, spreading the big lie of a rigged election. Have a listen to this.
When you say you needed 1/10 of a point, you needed
1/10 of a point. I needed a very small. I think somebody said 22,000 votes
to win.
Yeah, if you divide it among the states, it was 22,000 votes, something to that effect. Yeah.
To win the election.
Yeah, if I would have had another 22,000 votes over the whole. But look, they rigged the election. If you look at Pennsylvania,
but Mr. President,
if you
you're
look
saying
at all
you needed
this
more
stuff,
votes to win the election. Are you acknowledging you
if
didn't
you
win?
if you look at all of the statistics, all of the votes, they say 22,000 votes, over millions and millions of votes, 22,000 votes. So when they do Twitter files, or when they have 51 intelligence agents come out and lie that the laptop from hell was Russia disinformation, and now they find out it's not. But they knew that at the time. They cheated on the election in that way, too.
I just want to be clear, though. Are you saying you needed those votes in order to win? Are you acknowledging you didn't win?
I'm not acknowledging. No, I say I won the election.
All right. So a number of things that he said there, obviously a lie. He does say he needed 22,000 votes. And it's like, okay, well, if you're saying you needed 22,000 votes, are you admitting that you lost? No, the election was rigged. Obviously, I'm not going to get back into that type of conversation. The election was not rigged. Joe Biden won a free and fair election, and anybody who thinks otherwise is a moron. You're an idiot. Can we just end that conversation now? At this point, if you think Donald Trump won the 2020 election, you are a buffoon. You are a moron. You're extremely stupid. Donald Trump did the same thing before the 2016 election, and then all of a sudden he won, and all those conversations went away. So if he wins, everything's totally fair. If he loses, it's a rigged election. Nothing was rigged, okay? He's a liar, and the fact that Welker continues to allow him to spew this nonsense, just interrupt him. No, Mr. President, you did not win the 2020 election. No, Mr. President, you're lying. We're going to move on now, and we're not going to let you lie in this interview.
Yeah, here's a big problem, right, with Kristen Welker in this interview, and you kind of alluded to it. I'll put it a different way. She wanted to address him in a fashion in which he's a normal guy, in which he's a normal candidate. And Donald Trump just isn't. That's not who he is. And he likes to approach these types of scenarios and situations and interviews in a way where he is going to be able to be bloviating right, and he's going to be able to run the person over. Right. That's the way that he approaches these interviews. And unfortunately, I guess that's the word I'll use for Kristen Welker, is she was the one who got run over in this interview. He absolutely would go on these tangents and saying a lot of crazy things, false things, misinformation, flat out lies, utter ignorance when it comes to his perception of how the United States government works and how he thinks it works. It is extremely, extremely disheartening, Brian Shapiro and PTL Nation out there. some of his viewpoints when it comes to how he thinks the government should work and how he thinks it works. He's just wrong.
Yeah.
And this is a man. This is what's so kind of crazy about this. This is a man who was the president of the United States for 4 years. He was the commander-in-chief of our country for 4 years. And he is spouting off a lot of this utter nonsense and idiocy and outright preposterous notions left and right in this interview. And it's on full display, Brian. It's on full display. We're about to hear more of it. But I was just stunned. I was stunned and I was sickened and I was just absolutely blown away by where this man stands on a number of things and his viewpoints on a number of things. And it's just so tough to watch.
Yeah.
And that's someone who kind of is basically in the same camp you are when it comes to Trump. I think he's a despicable human being. I think he's charming. I think he can be charming at times. But I think that he absolutely has been detrimental to the country and has no business whatsoever in public service.
Let me be clear when it comes to Kristen Welker. There are certain people that have certain different skill sets. There are some people that are good at going to press conferences and asking questions. Now, when you go to a press conference and you ask a question, you get one question, maybe a follow-up.
Right.
Very different than doing a one-on-one interview. Mm-hmm. There are certain people that are really good at doing shows on television where you have opinions, you do interviews, and there are certain people that are great at doing one-on-one interviews. Everybody has a different skill set. Some people are gifted. They're able to do all those things. Kristen Welker is just not one of them. I'm sorry. She's a great reporter. She's really good at reporting the news. And, but she's really bad at doing one-on-one interviews, and she proved that over the weekend.
Well, Brian, what was the word that's been used left and right for the last 24 hours? The word is steamrolled. That's what she got in this interview, all right?
Yep.
Way too many times she was treating him like he's a normal guy, like he's just a normal candidate. Yeah. And it's like, no, it's Donald Trump. He's not a normal candidate. There's all kinds
Let me give you an example.
All kinds of stuff surrounding this guy.
Yep.
That she didn't really want to, she didn't nail down on.
And let me give you an example to her defense of this. There are certain people that are very difficult to interview, but I would like to think, because I've interviewed Larry Elder several times, and the last interview we did maybe about a month ago, it was difficult because Larry Elder interrupts. He doesn't directly answer questions, but I did get into it with him. I did tell him he had no idea what he was talking about, and I proved that when he called me a liberal and all these other things. And I challenged him on a number of issues, and I did the best I could in that interview, but I did challenge him. I didn't let him just spew lies nonstop, which is what he did in a lot of that interview. And then, I do a 10-minute interview with Vivek Ramaswamy. I wanted to challenge him on every single one.
You didn't have enough time, though.
Yeah,
in the Vivek Ramaswamy thing. But look, this isn't a competition, Brian, between you and Kristen Welker.
I'm just explaining.
It's not a competition.
I'm not saying it is. I'm
we can
trying
just make
to
observations.
I'm not saying it is. I'm trying to explain to the listeners that there are different circumstances where you have a certain amount of time and you don't. What we know about Welker's interview is she's had an hour and 15 minutes, and several times during that interview, Trump said he had nowhere to go, basically saying, I have more time to give you. And she didn't challenge him, or at least didn't challenge him enough. That was a perfect opportunity where she had an opportunity to challenge him on his complete BS. Let me give you another example. This is the point in the interview where, again, Donald Trump is lying, and he's talking about the indictment. I want you to listen to this clip. This is listen to what he says about Biden and his indictments.
You are facing 4 indictments, 91 felony charges.
If you would say it properly, I'm facing 4 Biden indictments. He told the Justice Department to indict him, or Merrick Garland said, let's indict him.
Let me ask you this, Mr. President.
They indicted their political opponent.
I just want to hear from you on this. I want to know what's in your head. When you go to bed at night, do you worry about going to jail?
No, I don't, really. I don't even think about it. I'm built a little differently, I guess, because I have had people come up to me and say, how do you do it, sir? How do you do it?
All right, so first of all, let me say this. Again, another criticism of Welker. Right after he says it's a Biden indictment, she doesn't even say anything. No. She doesn't challenge him. Let's be very clear on this for you MAGA morons out there with an IQ of 10. This is not a Biden indictment. Jack Smith was not appointed by Joe Biden, okay? This is not a Biden indictment, and there is zero evidence to show that Biden persuaded or had any conversations with these prosecutors. Now, if you think these are political indictments, okay, let's have that conversation. But there is
no. We're not going to have that conversation. That's
evidence.
Not true.
There is zero evidence that Joe Biden persuaded or had any conversations. Now, when people say these are political, obviously I disagree with that statement. But what Trump said specifically, these are not Joe Biden indictments. This is not a George Soros indictment. These are not lefty indictments. These are indictments by 4 separate entities with proof based on the indictments, if you read them, and they believe that Donald Trump committed crimes, and they'll have the opportunity to prove it in court, just like Donald Trump will have the opportunity to prove his attempt to prove his innocence in court. So again, when Donald Trump says this is a Biden indictment, Welker needs to step in, and she needs to say, no, Mr. President, here's the people that indicted you. Here's how our justice system works. Where is your evidence that Joe Biden did this? Where is your direct evidence? Now, obviously, he doesn't have any, but she didn't do that, and she allowed him to lie, which to me is just the worst way of doing an interview. We expect this from Donald Trump. I didn't expect this from Welker.
And there was multiple times upon multiple times in this interview where she had an opportunity in real time to check him, to fact check him. And look, it doesn't take you 5-10 minutes to fact check somebody like Donald Trump when he says something completely outrageous that's wrong and a lie, and you just basically call him out. You can do it. And don't give me this BS about you need to be more respectful or anything. No. When people are bringing up misinformation and lying, they're the ones that are being disrespectful to you, the American people. You are the ones that are insulting the intelligence of us out there when we realize that you're a complete idiot and you're saying things that are not factually accurate. All right. When it comes to indictments, this is not political persecution, folks. It is not. That's not what it is. This is not the Joe Biden and the Biden administration charging Donald Trump with 91 plus charges, charging all these other people that are getting charged with this stuff with legitimate charges. It's not Joe Biden doing it and Democrats doing it. All right. And I flipped this and I talked about this on your show a couple weeks ago. All right. You can flip it the other way too if you want to make it political, because as bad as Bill Barr was as an attorney general, and Jeff Sessions and all the others that were under Trump, right, and who I disagreed with politically, right, and who I thought, kind of carried water for Donald Trump, right, as bad as they were, Democrats weren't out there complaining and say, oh, yeah, you're charging Democrats with crimes. You're out there just making up crimes and you're just making up indictments for Democratic politicians, right? They weren't doing that. Republican, even though they were appointed by Donald Trump and they were Republicans and they happened to be, part of the Department of Justice, they weren't just making up things to charge Democrats with, right? During the Trump administration. Didn't happen. You know why? Because it's not about what if you have a D or an R next to your name. It's about these are legitimate charges that Donald Trump and his minions are being brought up on. And by the way, people have already been charged and convicted and are going to prison, all right? And that's going to probably happen for Donald Trump as well, too. But the point is that your arguments have so many holes in them, people, when you want to make this whole, it's the Joe Biden administration that's charging Donald Trump in these. It is just him being a Democrat going after Trump because he's MAGA and he's a Republican. It's complete and utter nonsense.
Of course it is. That's without saying. Goes without saying. But again, when you hear from the far right every single day that these are politically motivated indictments and that Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong and it's a 2-tier justice system. A guy by the name of Hunter Biden was just indicted, by the way, the other day. But, it's still a 2-tier justice system. Now it goes to the part of the interview where he starts talking about Vladimir Putin. And by the way, let me remind all of you that Donald Trump is the same guy who has never really said anything negative about Vladimir Putin. Joe Biden said that Vladimir Putin is an evil, murderous dictator. Many of even the Republicans that were on the debate stage last month admitted it, which I was happy to hear, that Vladimir Putin is an evil, murderous dictator. The one person that refuses to say that is Donald Trump, the same guy who says within 24 hours he can end the war in the Ukraine, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Anyway, listen to him start talking about Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. Listen to this.
Some people hear you say you're going to end the war in 24 hours, and they worry that means President Putin is going to get to keep the territory he's unlawfully
I'd make a fair
claimed.
deal for everybody. Nope.
Doesn't mean that? Wouldn't be a win for Putin?
That's something that could have been negotiated because there were certain parts, Crimea and other parts of the country, that a lot of people expected could happen. You could have made a deal. So they could have made a deal where there's less territory right now than Russia's already taken, to be honest. And you could have made a deal where nobody was killed. They had a deal. They would have had a Ukraine country. Now nobody even knows if Ukraine is going to be totally taken over. I will say this. Something's going on, and it's not good for Ukraine.
So we hear the same nonsense from people on the far right. Clearly, Donald Trump, when it comes to foreign affairs, just the statements that he makes are just so absurd. Same thing with Vivek Ramaswamy, where they say maybe we could have done a deal and given Vladimir Putin parts of Ukraine. Even just the idea of rewarding a guy for invading a country, our allies, and hundreds of thousands of people dying. Just the idea of him even saying that is beyond absurd. That's number one. Number two. We're going to make it fair for everybody. First of all, let's go back and rewind. Was it fair when Vladimir Putin decided to invade a country and kill a bunch of innocent people and rape mothers while their children watched? Yet Donald Trump wants to be fair to an evil, murderous dictator. Should the world have been fair during the Holocaust? Should they have been fair to Adolf Hitler? Just the fact that and this is what Donald Trump does. Oh, he's the hardest president when it comes to Russia. No, he's not. What is it with these people on the far right that I feel like are rooting for Russia to win this war? Do we forget how this war started? It wasn't because of Joe Biden, okay? It wasn't because of Democrats or the fact that Donald Trump wasn't the president. It was because a man by the name of Vladimir Putin decided to invade another country and kill a bunch of innocent people. That's why this war started. And just the fact that Donald Trump sits there like the clown that he is and says, I want it to be fair for everybody. No, sir. It shouldn't be fair for an evil, murderous dictator who has murdered thousands and thousands of innocent people. It shouldn't be fair for him. But Donald Trump thinks that he could just pick up the phone and say, hey, Vladdy, knock it off, and the war is going to be over within 24 hours. Is there anybody with an IQ over 20? I'm talking to you MAGA idiots out there. Is there anybody with an IQ over 20? And at this point, if you're a MAGA, you probably don't have an IQ over 20. But is there anybody out there that actually believes that if Donald Trump was in office, the war would be over within 24 hours? Are there actually people out there that are that stupid? And I would answer my own question and say, yeah, there probably is.
Well, I'll reflect on that, Brian, because this is where I'll critique Kristen Welker again, right? As far as this interview goes between Trump and her. So Donald Trump makes that preposterous notion, right? Where he says, oh, yeah, I can end that in 24 hours. And she repeats it back to him in the form of a question. And then what does she do? She doesn't push back on it. She doesn't counter him and say, that's a completely ridiculous take, sir. There's no possible way anybody, and much less you, would be able to end this conflict in 24 hours, even though we're not in the conflict. We just support Ukraine. We're not in it. But she what does she do, Brian Shapiro? What does she do? She kind of legitimizes it and starts talking about the approach a U.S. president would take as far as that goes. She repeats back to him, if you say you'd end it in 24 hours, and then she goes into like this legitimate thought process of what a president would do and how he would go about doing that in 24. It's so ridiculous. It's Kristen Welker was just absolutely had no business doing this interview. I'm sorry, but she did. She did not have any business whatsoever doing this interview because she did not have the right approach. We haven't talked about this aspect as well, too. When you're interviewing somebody like Donald Trump, you have to be somebody that corrals somebody like this, right? Yeah. You can't just let them go out and spout nonsense left and right and just and not have any pushback whatsoever. You have to approach it like it's a confrontation almost, like it's a war, right? Like Michael McDermott said in Rounders, right? You got to when he's playing poker, you got to look at it like it's a war. When you're interviewing people like Donald Trump and Larry Elder, for that matter, and Vivek Ramaswamy and some of these people, you got to approach it and you got to come strong. You have to come with a point of view and an ability to critique in real time. And unfortunately for Kristen Welker in this interview, she was not able to do that.
No question. And, it gets worse. I mean, listen, we could play the entire interview.
You didn't even want it, Brian. Right. So both of us watched this together last night, right? You were in a position where you almost didn't want to watch the rest. You were like, look, I can't. It's so tough for you to even watch this, right? And I had to say, I was kind of on board with you on this because it was so difficult to watch.
It's like watching Sean Hannity interview Donald Trump. I mean, it's a joke. Yeah. But I want to play you one more clip, which I think is probably the most important one, maybe, of the whole interview. This is the point of the interview. There were a few important points where I think Donald Trump put his foot in his mouth. For example, when talking about the 2020 election, he said he didn't listen to any of his attorneys that were basically telling him, Mr. Trump, you lost the election. And it was his own, he didn't listen to experts.
2,000 mules.
Yeah, because he said he didn't respect him. And then he cited 2,000 mules. But anyway, here's the point of January 6th. The part of this interview, I want to play the whole expert here. It's a couple minutes, but it's very, very important because it's Donald Trump who's actually so delusional that he decides to blame Nancy Pelosi for what took place on January 6th. You can't make this stuff up. Here it is.
I don't have. Why would I tell you that? Listen, Nancy
want to talk about
Pelosi
that?
was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January 6th.
Did you call military or law enforcement?
What?
Did you call military or law enforcement at the moment the Capitol
I'm
was
not going
under
to tell
attack?
you anything. Let me put it this way. I behaved so well. I did such a good job. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't do that,
But
and now
Nancy
I understand.
Pelosi doesn't have
I
the authority
understand
that
the
you
police
have as
testified
commander in
against-
chief, though.
Listen to me, Kristen. Listen to me. I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her, Capitol Police, great people. They testified against her, and they burned all the evidence. Okay, they burned all the evidence.
Mr.
They
President-
destroyed all the evidence about Nancy Pelosi.
What do you say to people who wonder why you as commander in chief, you have authorities that Nancy Pelosi doesn't have as
No,
commander in
she
chief?
has authority over
Why
the
didn't you
Capitol.
send help in that moment, though?
Frankly, just so you understand, I assumed that she took care of it. She turned down.
So when you realized that the National Guard wasn't coming?
Well,
when
you don't realize anything until quite a while. National Guard not coming. I asked it to be there 3 days in advance, and she turned it down.
She says that request was never officially made.
Oh,
just
stop
so
it.
you know.
Let me just tell you.
Let me ask you
The
about
mayor
pardons,
let me
Mr.
tell you.
President.
The mayor of D.C. gave us a letter saying that she turns it down. Okay, we have it. Nancy Pelosi also was asked, and she turned it down. The police commissioner
I'm talking
of
about the
Capitol
day of,
Police,
though.
wait a minute.
Yep.
Capitol Police said that he wanted it, and Nancy Pelosi wouldn't accept it. She's responsible for January 6th.
Mr. President.
Nancy Pelosi's responsible.
Mr.
And
President, you're the
J6
president,
committee
though. You
refused to interview
have
her.
authorities that no one else has as the commander in chief. Do you think you showed leadership on that?
Yes, absolutely, I did.
Okay.
All right, so a lot of lies there, and I'm going to try to go through them one by one, if I may, real quickly. There is no evidence that there is a letter from the mayor in D.C. Claiming what Donald Trump is claiming. That letter, if it does exist, has never been shown publicly. I believe that to be a lie. There is also no evidence that they requested soldiers through Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi has always denied that, and there is literally zero evidence to prove that. There is also zero evidence that anybody, quote, burned evidence, as Donald Trump suggested in this interview. Zero evidence that anything has been burned, as Donald Trump suggested. There is also zero evidence that Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. Also a blatant far right-wing lie. And the reason why Donald Trump is doing this is why he always does this. No burden of responsibility on his part, wants to put it on somebody else. Let's be very clear. January 6th doesn't happen if not for Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi had nothing to do with the big lie. Donald Trump, forever, has been saying that the 2020 election has been stolen. That's the reason why January 6th happened, at the hands of Donald Trump, who incited that mob to storm the Capitol on January 6th. It is nobody's fault but the people who committed those crimes and Donald Trump for inciting it. If you agree or disagree, you can give us a call now. We got to go to break, and then I want to get Chris's thoughts as a whole on January 6th when we come back. Number to call, by the way, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283, 702-221-SAVE if you want to be a part of the program. Your thoughts on this interview and Donald Trump's ramblings on Meet the Press. Absolute joke. Taking your phone calls. Take a quick break, and we will be back right after this. And I have a feeling when we come back, Chris is not going to say it was a tourist visit on January 6th. That's just my personal opinion on that. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're traveling in a hurry, they can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call, 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. Tell them I sent you.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Zen World Premium CBD offers full and broad spectrum CBD oil, extracts, and capsules, which are designed to help you feel your best. Their products are sourced from the best organic hemp and natural ingredients on the market and are tested for quality, purity, and potency. They have a full range of items from health and wellness to beauty to pets. Call 725-205-9223. Visit online at zenworld.com or stop by their location at 9895 South Maryland Parkway and Silverado Ranch Parkway. Mention KSHP for 10% off in store or use code KSHP online for 15% off.
Locally owned and operated, come on down to Academy of Hair Design located at 5191 West Charleston Boulevard, number 150 today to begin your career in cosmetology. There is something for everyone from cosmetology to nail technology. You will be able to have the hands-on training that is needed to succeed in this career field. Call 702-878-1185 or visit www.ahdvegas.com today.
The London Bridge Resort in Lake Havasu is the perfect place to vacation in style. Their beautifully designed suites include stunning views, a kitchenette, and free Wi-Fi. The well-reviewed and affordable resort has tons of amenities, including a breakfast buffet, kids camp, a 9-hole golf course, 3 pools, a marina, boat tours, a water slide, and a great nightlife scene. London Bridge Resort is centrally located in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Go to londonbridgeresort.com to plan your getaway today. London Bridge Resort, your Arizona oasis destination.
The T.C. Martin Show, weekday afternoons at 2 on KSHP North Las Vegas, AM and FM, 829 6HP North Las Vegas, and KSHP.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits. On a Monday, yes, starting out the new week, I want you to check out my good friends at Sahara West Urgent and Primary Care, located at 6125 West Sahara Avenue. No appointment needed, but they do pretty much everything there. Could be work injury, car accident, STD screening. We know C-Win needs that. Work or sports physicals. They take most insurances, and if you don't have insurance, the great part is only a $95 payment there. Give them a call, 702-248-0554. You could also visit them online at SaharaWestUrgentCare.com. Highly recommend it. And our mutual good friend, Big Mo, Paul McKeskey, was out there last week. Got the care that he needed. Please check him out. All right, before we get back to Trump world and Trump land, and we're taking your calls at 702-221-7283. I'm on social media last few days, and I see this video, right? And it's a video of two teenagers who steal a vehicle, and they hit a car, hit and run, and they're laughing, they're joking, which is obviously abhorrent. It's disgusting. It's terrible. And they're going pretty fast on a road in Summerlin. And then they see a bicyclist. And clearly it's intentional because they say, quote, hit his ass. And they're laughing and they're joking. And you literally see, as they're live streaming it, hitting the bicyclist where he hits the windshield and falls to the ground. And that man lost his life. And it's really hard to watch. He's a retired California police chief who was just mowed down. Andreas Probst is his name, 64 years old. Retired, moved out here to Vegas to enjoy the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. Deliberately struck. It happened, by the way, on the morning of August 14th. So this happened, over a month ago. But the reason why it's made national news now is because the video has been released. So originally, police arrested this 17-year-old for hit and run. But then when they saw this video circulating on social media, it's now attempted murder. It's been the charge has been upscaled to attempted murder. They're still looking for the passenger, who I think should go to jail for the rest of his life as well. He's joking around, he's laughing. Really hard to watch. It's a tragedy. And police have not identified the driver because he's 17 years old. Let me be very clear on this. As clear and as concise as I could possibly be. I don't believe the person that was driving that vehicle should ever be out of jail ever again for the rest of his life. I don't care if he was 17 or 70. When you decide to deliberately kill somebody, especially in this manner after stealing a car, and thank God more people weren't severely injured or lost their life, I don't think you deserve a second chance at life after doing that. And I spoke to the 64-year-old who lost his life. I spoke to his daughter online, and I said, hey, I'd love to honor your father. I'd love you to come on. And she respectfully declined at the moment. She said maybe in the future, but her family's still grieving, and I totally understand that completely. And it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling when we see like the video of moments before he's hit, on this live stream. And it's amazing to me how people don't value life, that they think this is some game. And it's amazing how dumb they can be to not truly understand. Maybe they did, I don't know, that when you hit somebody on a bike, there's a good chance that person could be severely injured and or die. And they're laughing and they're joking. And then after they hit this guy, this poor man, they say, oh, I think we knocked him out. No, you didn't knock him out. You killed him. Now, this video went viral. It's all over the internet. And as I said before, it's graphic in a sense that I've never seen a video like this before. They do use the N-word in the video several times. They're laughing as the passenger is filming. And as I said before, police have not yet been able to find the passenger. He needs to be found, and that leads me to believe that the person that they arrested is not cooperating, the driver, because he would have probably dished that out by now. My heart goes out to the Probst family, This shouldn't be what Vegas is all about. And it's not, but there is a small percentage of people that just do not value life. And while Henry Ruggs' situation is a different one because that wasn't necessarily intentional, it wasn't intentional, he still was going 150 miles an hour and killed an innocent young lady, and he only is going to be spending several years behind bars. I want to be very clear again on this. This needs to be, and it won't be, because this driver was 17, they're not going to give him life. I can almost guarantee it. It should be life without the possibility of parole. Make an example and say, if you decide to steal a car and you decide to go on a rampage and deliberately plow people over, you are never going to be able to be in society ever again. I'm not sure if the passenger deserves life in prison, but the passenger certainly deserves decades in prison. I don't know what's going to happen here, but I can assume that prosecutors are probably not going to go for life in prison because of the age of the individual. And I think that's wrong. Now, on the other side of things, Chris, I will say this. There are people on the far right and people that happen to be white that are going on social media. And while I don't defend this action at all, they're very selective with their outrage. And they want to blame Democrats for what took place in this crime. Let's be clear again. Politics should have nothing to do with this crime. And it does have nothing to do with the crime. It has nothing to do with Lombardo, who I would never blame this on, even though he's a Republican. Who cares? It's not Sisolak's fault. It's not Democrats' fault. It's not Republicans' fault. It's the fault of the individuals who committed these heinous crimes and perhaps family members who did not raise them properly. But the main people that are responsible are the driver and the passenger. And I know I'm going on here a little bit, but that video really struck a nerve with me. It's really hard to watch. And we're seeing the last moments of a hero's life. This man was a hero, right? This guy Probst, he's a hero. And here's this guy who serves as a retired California police chief for decades. And he retires and he wants to enjoy the golden years of his life in Las Vegas. And this is how his life ends? The bastard who was behind the wheel should never be able to see the light of day again, Chris.
Yeah, a couple things. To me, this is pretty straightforward stuff. I just have a couple questions, right? Obviously, we need to preface this by saying myself and Brian are not attorneys. We are not lawyers. So we're not versed in all things the law as far as what should be charged and what shouldn't be charged. But after hearing what you described the situation and then hearing the response of things like attempted murder, first of all, it's not attempted murder, okay? It's vehicular homicide, right? I know I'm using terms that are legal terms even though I'm not a lawyer, but the idea that it's attempted murder is ridiculous. The guy's dead, so it's actually is murder. Obviously, questions come to my mind of, intent. When you have the individuals in the car saying to hit the guy, then that goes to premeditation, essentially, of this act that actually took place. The result, obviously, is that the person was killed. And so, therefore, you're going to be held at into account when it comes to the results of that situation and this individual. Mm-hmm. I echo everything you say as far as the individual, and he's a hero, and no question. When you're talking about first responders, you talk about people that are members of law enforcement, absolutely. And I don't know exactly what they should be charged with. They should be charged to the highest extent that they can be charged with for the crime that they committed, which is essentially vehicular homicide, right? Hit and run. I mean, hit and run. It goes to people. There's all kinds of different scenarios that present themselves when it comes to hit and run. This was actually somebody who lost their life in a situation. So that has nothing to do with that whatsoever. As far as right wingers and racists and bigots out there having their comments about that means nothing to me. That's complete garbage. No one, there's no time to deal with nonsense like that. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Yes, I mean, look, you opined on it saying that you think they should, the driver should spend the rest of his life in prison. I probably would agree with that sentiment, but I think we understand the reality that is the Nevada justice system, and that he is not even. And by the way, he's 17 years old. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not even an adult yet, right? You're 17. You're technically a minor. So there's going to be all kinds of sentiment out there that, well, yeah, it's a horrible thing. Somebody lost their life, and you killed somebody with a car. But there's going to be people that want to take empathy on this person and say, oh, he's a young kid who made a mistake. It was a horrific and tragic mistake, but there's going to be people that take that approach, Brian. I'm not saying we necessarily agree with it, but there's people that are going to take that viewpoint. And so I don't know exactly what charges are going to be brought and exactly what his penalty is going to be. I just say, along with you, I think it should be absolutely severe given the circumstances that took place in this tragic event.
The 17-year-old's now in a juvenile detention center.
Right.
Quite
He's a
frankly,
juvenile. So
as far as I'm concerned, they should put him on Rikers Island and reopen Rikers Island and put him out there and put him in a 4x4 cell for the rest of his life.
Well, a big key to that is, look, there's people that do get charged as adults, right? When they commit like horrific crimes at 16, 17 years old. There's people that do get charged with those as an adult.
He very well might be. So I spoke to Taylor Probst, who I mentioned is the man who died tragically, his daughter. So it's really sad as well how they learned about this. Apparently, she received an alert from her dad's Apple Watch indicating that he had fallen. I don't know if that was a bystander who showed up or if that was actually Probst himself who sent a text. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know how those watches work. So I don't know. I don't know if he was immediately unconscious. I don't know how that.
So basically, they have like the fall alert to where, like, let's say, for older people or people that have seizures, it kind of indicates a fall.
Gotcha.
And it goes to certain people. Like,
understood.
I can have it sent to my wife.
Yeah, that's what I figured because he was unconscious immediately. I would imagine.
Yeah.
He was pronounced dead later, sadly at UMC. But so Taylor and her mother, they live 3 miles from where their loved one was murdered. And they drove to the scene only to find that his cell phone was like 80 feet away, his helmet and all that other stuff. It was all scattered everywhere.
These are horrible details. Yeah, you don't mean it's like,
and
it doesn't matter if he was killed in front of his house. It's just a horrible,
couple
horrible
miles
tragedy.
away.
Yeah.
And so it's really horrible. I can't even imagine what that family is going through. I don't know what the laws are either. But I can tell you this, just because you're 17 doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be charged as a juvenile. It depends on the crime, and police and the prosecutors have discretion on this. The problem I do have, again, besides this horrible crime that was committed, is that some of the people that are going out of the woodworks and talking about this crime are taking the opportunity to go after African Americans in general.
Well, they're jackasses.
Using
they're
the term
jackasses.
thugs.
Yeah.
And, I look at Ahmaud Arbery, for example, right? Another heinous crime. I think we all could agree on that.
Yeah.
And I don't like to compare or say one crime is worse. Both these people were murdered. And the people that are, rightfully so, are talking about this horrible crime are the ones that, kept their mouth shut when it comes to, like, George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery or these other types. A murder is murder. Doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. I know that there are hate crimes, and I understand that. But these are murders. And this is the loss of life. And there are people in society that do not value life. I also believe, and this is where I disagree with Democrats on issues when it comes to punishments. I do believe that some of the punishments in this country do not fit the crime in the aspect I think if you're 17 years old, you should not get any leniency. If you do what, say, a 30-year-old would do, and you're 17 and you steal a vehicle and you murder somebody, you should be tried as an adult. It's one thing if you're 7 or 8 years old and you shoot somebody, you probably don't know what you're doing. But when you're 16, 17 years old, and you premeditate a murder like these people did, you should be tried as an adult.
Okay, so Brian, let me push back on that, though, because you talking about it in the frame of Democrats are down with something like that, but Republicans aren't. That's not necessarily the case. You have your own personal opinion that you just gave regarding this, right? And you have your own personal opinion that, yeah, you're kind of hard line on it, that you're saying, 17-year-old, I don't think you should be given any type of leniency whatsoever, as opposed to if this was a 30 or 40 or 50-year-old doing this. That's your personal opinion. That doesn't reflect, though, what all Republicans think or all Democrats think. It's not about Republican or Democrat. A lot of people have different opinions. There's a lot of people that happen to have an R next to their name that believe that think the way you think, and there's a lot of people that have a D next to their name that think the way you think. All right? Mm-hmm. And I would happen to agree, by the way, with your sentiment, especially in this case, because there was a sense of premeditation to what went down here when this guy was killed. So your insinuation, which is what you just did, regarding, well, I don't agree with Democrats the way they handle these certain situations. Like, look, there's plenty of Democrats that want to be hard line when it comes to crime in America. This is not a situation in which Democrats are just a bunch of softies, and Republicans are the only ones that want to hold people's feet to the fire when it comes to criminal justice in America. It's just not true.
Well, let me respond to that by saying there are a lot of people in office on the left that are against the death penalty, that are against capital punishment. I disagree with that. I have always been for capital punishment. I disagree. There are a lot of Democrats in office today that are against, solitary confinement. There are a lot of Democrats today that have always been against solitary confinement. So there are ways I can go up and down the list, but let me give you, that's why I say that, but let me give you an example of the other side. So there's somebody on social media that was posting about this horrific tragedy that we're talking about. Again, no problem with that.
You're talking about anecdotal situations. Hold on. Anecdotal.
Let me just explain.
Okay.
And again, I have no problem with people lashing out at these individuals for these heinous crimes. I think we all should. It's horrible. And my thoughts are with the Probst family. This is just terrible. But again, this is somebody with a very large social media platform, and I saw this tweet earlier today, and I want to bring it up because this is exactly what I'm talking about. This person, after talking about this crime, says, Jordan Neely, criminal record, restrained after harassing and threatening passengers on train. No intentional death, national outrage. And my response to that is this. There is national outrage when it comes to this story. It's made national news. So this idiot has no idea what he's talking about. That's number one. Number two, the reason why there was national outrage in the Jordan Neely story, and whether he has a criminal record or not, doesn't mean anything. All that matters is what happens in that time. The people that defend Officer Chauvin during the George Floyd thing will make same statements. Oh, George Floyd had this in his system. He was a bad guy. Completely irrelevant to what took place at that time. The reason why that story also made national news is a number of reasons. Was race a factor? Don't know. Could have been, could not have. It's white versus black. Don't know if race played a factor, number one. Number two, there's video. Number three, controversy with your stand your ground and the law legally. It's a unique case. It's a sad case, but it's also a unique legal perspective case. Did he have the right to do what he did to that man on that train? That's why that story was national. Yes, there are some people that were outraged by it. Yes, there's also a lot of people that were outraged by this. So for anybody who wants to make these types of political statements, why isn't there any outrage? There is outrage. It's a national story. It's all over the place. The reason why they're talking about the Neely story is because of the case is a perplexed case. That's why they're talking about it. There's nothing wrong with that either. But these idiots that want to make it racial, these idiots that want to say, well, not enough is being done on this story, but that story. I'm just so sick of these people. These are the same people that say Derek Chauvin didn't do anything wrong and it wasn't murder. I mean, can't we just all be fair in this country? Derek Chauvin is a murderer. He murdered George Floyd. Doesn't matter how bad of a person George Floyd was. Irrelevant. Neely. Doesn't matter whether he was a bad guy or a good guy. You can't put your arm around somebody for 8 minutes and kill somebody just because somebody is acting a little irrationally on a train and saying crazy things without a weapon. Can't we all be fair? What took place here in Summerlin is a disgrace. It's disgusting. It's horrible. And I want the people that are responsible to be in jail for the rest of their lives. Why do we always have to make everything political? This is horrible. Loss of lives. What happened to George Floyd is horrible. Loss of life. What happened on that train in New York City was horrible. Loss of life. And people need to be punished. Derek Chauvin was and is being punished. These people in this car in Summerlin, one of them punished. Hope they find the other guy. 17-year-old, whatever. Why can't we all just be fair? Why does everything have to be political, man?
So, Brian, it's not all about political. All right. A lot of the examples you brought up, and you talked about it yourself. You said they want to make it into a racial issue. It's not that they want to make it into a racial issue. It's that people out there are racist. It's that people out there are bigoted. It's that people out there are judgmental. All right. I'll use another phrase that pertains to the conversation we're having right now, Brian. And it's not really a conversation. It's you and I just kind of go on our rants, but ulterior motives. People have ulterior motives when it comes to their approaches on these types of scenarios, right? The Derek Chauvin case, this situation right here, if they want to bring up, the person's background as far as what race they are or where they're from or whatever, right? We can see it coming a mile away. We can see it coming a mile away when these people want to turn this into something detrimental because of the color of their skin or because of their economic background or whatever, right? Or because they're from the LGBTQ community or they're the old transgender shooting take, right? Has nothing to do, it makes no difference whether or not a person is transgender or not. They just happen to be a murderer, right? So we can see, we understand that people have a certain viewpoint on the world and that their opinions are framed by that viewpoint. And it's unfortunate. It really is. I mean, yes, people should not look at it in that frame of mind through that lens. But unfortunately in America and around the world, people do that. And that's the case. And apparently that's the case with this situation too. People want to bring in their bigoted ideas when it comes to these two individuals that committed this horrific crime.
Yeah.
With this former law enforcement officer.
It's very sad. And again, at some point, I'll have a member or members of his family come on, see what we can do to help raise money for charity for him. And we lost another police officer, Nevada, Clark County police officer. We lost another one a month and a half ago. Me and Paul McKeskey, Mo, we were talking about that. Of course, we lost a Metro. We lose Metro police. We lose police officers in general too many times. And listen, I understand that there are some bad cops out there, and this is getting into a whole nother realm, which I probably don't want to get into. The overwhelming majority of police officers are heroes. They're good people. They serve this country honorably, and I have the utmost respect for them, which is an extremely stressful and difficult job. There are some bad apples out there, like in any profession. And anyway, I wanted to be clear on that. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little UNLV football, big win over the weekend, and we will also talk a little Aces basketball as well. Take a quick break. He's Chris Wynn. I'm Brian Shapiro. It's Pushing Limits on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're Traveling in a hurry? They can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call. 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. Tell them I sent you.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event. It requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well. So I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Hungry for the best barbecue in Las Vegas? Come out to the infamous barbecue and meat market, John Mole's Meats and Roadkill Grill in Las Vegas. John Mole's was featured on the Food Network's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Now take home delicious meat selections for your grill, and while you're there, grab a bite of the best barbecue in Las Vegas. With 2 locations now at Tom and Gowan or on North Decatur, you're sure to find the perfect meats for your next barbecue or party. Find us online at johnmolemeats.com.
All right, besides Jackson's Bar and Grill for fun Monday Night Football time, we're going to have some great news for you this week as far as Sapphire. We're going to have some fun Monday Night Football parties lined up for you. Stay tuned for that. And also, we got a great charity poker tournament that I believe Chris is going to be attending the last Thursday in September.
Yes.
Raising money for the Ronald McDonald Fund, $100 buy-in. My friend Blake Wynn from Keller Williams, great real estate guy here in town, is going to be hosting this event. And Blake has been living here his whole life, so if you're thinking of buying or selling your home, no better person to call than Blake Wynn from the Keller Williams Group. Give him a call, 702-540-3311. Again, that number, 702-540-3311. We'll try to get Blake in studio this week, too, to talk a little bit more about this charity poker tournament that I plan on winning, by the way, just for the record. It'll be at Arizona.
You're very
Charlotte.
competitive.
Yeah.
It's very important to you that you're a winner.
Extremely,
it's very important.
Extremely competitive. I'm a very competitive guy. What can I say? I have issues. Speaking of competitive, UNLV football has not been very competitive over the last several decades. But I am going to pat myself on the back, even though we're very early this season. Pretty much every coach that UNLV has had, football or basketball, I've been right on. Literally, every coach.
Have you really?
Yes. When Lon Kruger was here,
check the tape on that.
Yeah, please do. Tell me where you disagree and you think I'm wrong here. When Lon Kruger was here and they didn't re-sign him, I said, huge mistake. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He made UNLV basketball relevant, consistently top 25 in the country, winning Mountain West Conference titles, winning NCAA tournament games. I said it, Jim Livengood made a huge mistake. You should have kept him on board, and I said it was going to set the program back a decade. Guess what? I was right. They hired Dave Rice. Dave Rice was just in studio where you were sitting, Quish, a few months ago. Great guy. Really nice guy. Never said anything personally bad about the guy. Never would. He's a great guy. Not a good head coach. He didn't get it done here. Doesn't mean he doesn't deserve another shot. Didn't get it done here. And everybody criticized me for it. With all the talent that his teams had, and they had more talent than any other team in the league, arguably, he didn't get it done. And he admitted it. He didn't win enough games. Then they hired this idiot, Marvin Menzies. Complete fool. I mean, it's just like he threw the basketball out there and said, guys, go ahead and play. Horrendous head coach, as far as I'm concerned. And not a good guy either. Not somebody I rooted for. And then they hired TJ Otzelberger. The guy never wanted to be here. He never wanted to be here at UNLV. You don't hire a guy that doesn't want to be here. And he was gone after a couple of years. And Desiree Reed-Francois, I called her the Joker because she looked and acted like a joker and has no idea how to be an athletic director. She was terrible. As soon as they promoted this guy to athletic director, I said to myself, Harper, right? I said to myself, this guy knows what he's doing. I think this guy's going to get the job done. He got rid of Marcos Arroyo, who I said couldn't coach a lick.
Wait, time out. You just talked about a bunch of basketball coaches.
And I'm going to
my
football.
Friend. Wait a minute, time out. So no, let me respond. So you talked about a bunch of basketball coaches. So I haven't heard your take when it came to when they hired Bobby Houck. I haven't heard your take when it came to Tony Sanchez.
I was going to get to that.
I don't remember. Like, we were all.
If you let me finish, I'll get to it. I was going to get to that.
Wait a minute. Yeah, but you started with all the basketball coaches.
You got to let
me
me
said,
finish.
well, I was right on all the coaches. So this is kind of like we're both on the show right now. So that's why I'm kind of responding to what you just said. It's kind of a back and forth, Brian. It's not just you talking
I know
and
that.
me just sitting back and listening to you. So you can respond as soon as I'm done talking. So you talked about a bunch of basketball coaches, and now you're going into hiring of Eric Harper, who obviously is the athletic director right now, who's been the athletic director for what, 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't talk about any of the football coaches
that
have been hired from the time period where you were on sports radio, and I've been on sports radio for the last decade. And I mentioned some of the names, obviously Bobby Houck, Tony Sanchez. We can go on. Marcos Arroyo, obviously very much more recent because he just got fired, last year. So you were talking all basketball.
Yeah, I was going to. And
you
then
were
I was
talking all basketball.
Right.
That was my point. You're talking all hoops, my friend.
I was going to.
You weren't talking football.
And I was going to. That's why I just mentioned Marcus Arroyo.
You were talking about you're about to talk about Eric Harper, the athletic director.
Yes. And I was just getting to that as well. There's a reason why I talked about basketball because I've been right.
So
I've been right.
So continue then.
Yeah, I've been right on the history of the basketball coaches here, and I like Kevin Kruger. I think he's a really nice guy, easy guy to root for. But year 3, you got to win. I'm rooting for Kevin. As far as the football program goes, I gave kudos to Harper when he got rid of Marcus Arroyo, who was just a horrendous head coach here. I'm sorry, he just was. And Harper made the right decision, and I really commended him for doing that. Now, back in the day, Chris, if we're going to talk UNLV football, Sanford was not Sanford was not the right guy for the job. He blamed the facilities. He blamed everything but his lack of winning as a head coach here, and they fired him eventually. Bobby Houck, a lot of success at Montana. I actually thought that they probably should have given Bobby Houck another year. I liked Bobby Houck. Didn't win enough games. Got to one bowl game with Caleb, and that was it. Sanchez, really nice guy. And what he did with the facilities involved with the Fertittas will never be forgotten. I really like Tony Sanchez as a human being. He's a really good guy. And I still talk to him now and again. Didn't win enough games here. Didn't win enough games. Didn't work out. Very difficult to hire a high school coach and make that step to a Division I football program, whether it's UNLV or Alabama. I don't care. It's still going to be very difficult to do that. And I thought that was the wrong hire, even though I like Tony Sanchez. So we get to Odom. First time I talked to him, and Justin can, he's a witness.
Vouch for you on this. He can jump in.
The first time I spoke with him,
right,
I said there's something about this guy where it feels to me like Odom is the right guy at the right time for this job. Now, what do I mean by that, Chris? He won about half his games in a really difficult conference, which is an accomplishment where he came from. But he comes out here, and what does he talk about? First of all, talk is cheap, and I get that, but this guy seems genuine. What did he do the first couple weeks here? He went to like 30 different high schools, and he met with the football coaches, something Marcus Arroyo never did. Never. And most of the other coaches here didn't do that either. There's a lot of football talent here. Mm-hmm. We'll get to that, the game over the weekend.
Right.
I'm getting to that. But he talked about recruiting locally and how he wants Vegas kids to wear that UNLV uniform. He didn't make excuses like Marcus Arroyo after barely beating Nevada Reno last year, a terrible football team, and he acted like he just won the Super Bowl. He said, listen, I'm going to be judged by my wins and losses. We need to win, and we need to win now. We didn't hear about rebuilding. We didn't hear about excuses. I need to recruit my own players. I need to do this. I need that. Odom from the get-go, he gets it. He understands he's going to be judged right away by wins and losses. He gets it. And he understands that he needs to recruit locally. And I said right from the beginning, Harper made I think he made a really good hire. This is the right guy for the job. It appears as though he appreciates being here. What does he do in the press conference yesterday? I'm going to get to the game. Yeah. The first thing he does in the press conference yesterday after the game is he thanks the media, something Marcus Arroyo never did. He thanks the media. Thank you guys for your coverage. We really appreciate it. He's a modest guy. The players seem to like him. He's a player's coach, but he wants, winning is priority number one. I love that about him. He doesn't make excuses. So I said that about Odom from the beginning. Now, without getting too carried away, because maybe I am, you beat Vandy at home, it's still a big win because they come from a good football conference. Not a good team, really good conference. And while a lot of mistakes were made, and he admitted that in this game, they found a way to win. Something Marcus Arroyo's teams and many other teams were unable to do is win close games. This team found a way, without their starting quarterback hurt, to win a football game with a kid who played for Liberty High School, and they found a way to get it done. That speaks to the players, but it also speaks to the staff and making sure these guys weren't too down when they were down 17-0. That says something about the coaching staff, and that says something about the team. When they're down 17-0 at home, if that was Marcus Arroyo's team, maybe Tony Sanchez's team, maybe Bobby Houck's team, maybe they would have laid down and they wouldn't have come back. This team came back. I think this team has a legitimate chance to make a bowl game. The problem is Brumfeld, and we need him to be healthy. But this kid from Liberty played really well. The defense made some mistakes. Offense made some mistakes. There were turnovers. But special teams, UNLV kept them in the game. And they were able to win this football game. And while the crowd wasn't, there weren't as many people in the stands that should have been. The crowd that was there was very loud, very boisterous. Odom also talked about that. And he said, listen, if these kids play really hard and they win football games, then more people are going to come. I agree. I just like Odom. I like everything he says in the press conferences. I like the way he talks with the media. I like the way he talks after games. He doesn't make excuses. It's just, to me, it's just the opposite of Marcus Arroyo. And Harper made a really good hire, I think. And I'm not going to try to get too carried away. I know they're only 2-1. They beat Bryant. Who cares, right? But this was a nice.
You're getting
win.
a little carried away right now.
Well, listen, I haven't said. Well, Chris, the reason. The reason why is I haven't said a lot of positive things about UNLV
because
football.
The program has a history. We all understand the history. Those of us that cover the team, especially you and I, for over a decade plus that cover the team, we understand what we're dealing with here. When you're talking about the entity that is UNLV football, yes. Everything you said as far as Barry Odom, I get it. Okay, look, there's reason to have optimism for Barry Odom as the head coach here with UNLV. He's a different guy. I mean, it's a Captain Obvious take I can have is that obviously Marcus Arroyo's a different kind of coach than Barry Odom is. That's a different kind of coach than Tony Sanchez was, and Bobby Houck and beyond, right? So we get that. He's a different kind of attitude coming in here. He's a different kind of approach coming in here. And yes, it was impressive. And look, a lot of college football experts, Brian, not you and I, college football experts, when they looked at this UNLV Vanderbilt game over the weekend, they said, you know what? Whoever wins this football game between the Commodores and the Rebels is going to be in the driver's seat for having an opportunity to get to a bowl game. That's the way it was described, right? Whoever won this football game. And so when you saw the circumstances play out in this game where you have Vanderbilt up 17-0 in this game, and then you see Doug Brumfield go out of the game, it had to take the wind out of all things UNLV as far as expectations, right, in this game and maybe for the season when you see Doug Brumfield go down. Right. For them to be able to come back and win this football game in the fashion they came back with, right, where special teams was a big key, where you're able to get, key plays, particularly defensively, that came into play here, and how everything played out where the Rebels end up with a 3-point win, and so they end up being on the positive side of that whole, this is good for our bowl chances later on down the line. It's a good thing. I'm going to push back with you on this, though, in that we have like this, it's a foregone conclusion or some solid idea that Barry Odom is the guy. It has not been established yet that Barry Odom is the guy. All right. Yes, they're 2-1. Okay. They've won 2 games. They've lost 1. The one that they lost, we expected them to lose. They're playing the number 2 team in the country. I mean, let's get real. Okay. And the team that they beat in the opener is a team that they are far superior to. So we're going to see, the rubber's going to meet the road, Brian Shapiro, when you have the matchups, not only in the Mountain West, but you've got this matchup coming up against UTEP, another team that they probably should beat. But if it goes the other way, then it's going to already start creating questions again as far as what direction this program is going. So your positivity is noted and it's worthy, but it's not. Okay, I'm not going to again. I'm not going to take a position, Brian, that I'm going to say, oh yeah, this is. Oh, I'm absolutely convinced after week 3 that Barry Odom is the guy here at UNLV.
So I never said that it was a foregone conclusion that
those are my words, not yours.
Hold on.
Wait, no, hold on. Those are my words, not your words. Okay. I use those words.
So it certainly wasn't a foregone conclusion in year 1 when I said Dave Rice wasn't the right guy for the job. I was right. It wasn't a foregone conclusion when I said Marvin Menzies was the wrong guy for the job, and I was right. It wasn't a foregone conclusion when I said that Tony Sanchez was the wrong guy for the job. I was right. It wasn't a foregone conclusion when I said Bobby Hauck year 1 was the wrong guy for the job, and I was right. When Kevin Kruger was hired, I had positives and negatives about that. I like Kevin. I think that's yet to be determined, but I've also said year 3. This is year 3 where he has immense talent. He had a great job off-season recruiting. You have to compete for a Mountain West Conference this year. I'm giving you my opinion, as I did day 1 when I interviewed Barry Odom, and I said I think this guy's the right guy for the job. And I think Harper's probably the best athletic director they've had in quite a while. I thought getting rid of Marcus Arroyo was a ballsy decision, but the right decision. Well, everybody disagreed with me. I don't go to UNLV football practices, so I don't know what I'm talking about, said Caleb Herring. Caleb had nothing but praise about Marcus Arroyo. Brian, you don't know what you're talking about. And then, literally, days later, Harper fires Arroyo. So I think we know who was right on that one. Odom is a different guy. Yeah. He's a different cat. He's good, and I mean that in a positive way. Right. Forget about wins and losses for a moment. And by the way, while I agree, nothing is a foregone conclusion. I'm just giving you my opinion. I still have the opinion that Barry Odom's the right guy for the job. Let's forget about wins and losses. Look at the way he deals with the media. Literally, the first thing he said after the game.
He's good with the media. Yeah.
He's modest. He said right after the game, he thanked everybody in the media, and then it transcends to the kids. The 2 players that were up there, thank you guys for we didn't see that when Carlos Arroyo was here. Same thing with Kevin Kruger. I'll give him credit for this. I've been to a few UNLV basketball practices with Kevin. All the players shake our hands after practice. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here. We didn't see that under TJ Otzelberger. We didn't see that under Marvin Menzies. We saw a little bit of that with Dave Rice and certainly with Lon Kruger. But, your players react and behave based on your coaching staff and the way they behave. And Arroyo was just the wrong guy for the job here, man. He was just terrible at everything. Terrible with the media, the offense, the play calling was horrible. And Odom gets it, man. And again, to use your term, foregone conclusion. I personally believe this is a big game for UNLV. Every game's a big game. If UNLV can start off the season 3-1 and find a way to beat UTEP on the road.
You like my foregone conclusion phrase.
I do.
He does like that.
No, but listen, I think we all could agree. I think we all could agree. If they beat UTEP, and it's a big if, but if they beat UTEP and start the season 3-1, they are looking dead in the eye.
Well on their way to
dead in the eye at a possible bowl game.
Absolutely.
Which would be not only huge for the program, but what about a guy, his first year as a head coach here, to get UNLV to a bowl game? That would be monumental,
That would be a big deal. Yes, it would be a big deal.
Yeah.
But look, here's the thing, and look, you just went on. You just gave scoreboard, right? As far as like your viewpoints, as far as coaches, both on the basketball side and the football side at UNLV. But what's the running theme? And this is kind of what I'm trying to get at. What has been the running theme in every single season in UNLV football or basketball season for the last, 10 years? What's been the running theme? It's been flat out disappointment across the board. for the last 10 years, outside the one season where, I mean, and by the way, are we really, look, and all due respect to Caleb and that team, that UNLV team, they played in like a bowl game, right? I think it was probably early December bowl game. It was the, weedwhacker.com, special fresh califragilisticexpialidocious bowl or whatever it was.
Wait, can you do that again?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious weed whacker bowl or whatever it was they played in. I mean, look, so that's the ones out of all the last 10 years, Brian Shapiro.
Yeah.
When it comes to UNLV basketball and UNLV football, what has been the overwhelming theme of both basketball and football? It's been disappointment, and they have been bad seasons, except for that 1 year.
Hold on, Chris.
That's it.
Can we play that audio again, please, Nunchuck? From the beginning. Yeah, go ahead. Blast it.
It's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious. If you say it
Very
loud
popular.
enough, you'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
All right, Chris, go.
That's what it is.
Now, go.
So that's what I'm
sing
saying.
it. Go.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.com weed whacker bowl.
You should do the commercial.
December 15th,
You should be like the Stallone's voiceover for
Yes.
that bowl game. I think that would be incredible.
But it would be
Super alidocious, that is.
Califragilisticexpialidocious.
Oh, that's funny. Anyway,
That's why.
by the way,
but you don't understand. My point is this. What has been the overwhelming theme of UNLV sports on the football and basketball side for the past
I'll
decade?
sing a song.
It's been disappointment.
Open up the door. Sorry, I won't be. Anyway.
It's been disappointment,
Yes,
right,
it
Brian?
has. I have some breaking news, though, that I want to share with you. It is football-related. Chandler
Yes.
Jones is now claiming on his Twitter that it's been hacked. I'm not buying that for 1 second, by the way. I don't believe his Twitter account was hacked. I just think he's nuts. He's crazy. I just figured I would share that with all of you. But, yeah, going back to UNLV, nice win. Let's not, I'm trying not to get too carried away here, but I like Barry Odom. I like Barry Odom. I think he's the right guy for the job at the right time. I love the fact that a Liberty High School standout was able to get in there, and he did a great job, by the way, when Brumfield got hurt. He really did a nice job. He had that one pick that could have cost them the game, but comes back and just throws a perfect ball for a touchdown. That was really fun to see. And nice win. Now, this is I told our mutual friend Brian Feldman, I said, if they win this game, I think they're making a bowl game. I'm sticking by my guns. If they lost that game, really tough starting the season 1-2. But now they're 2-1. Big game at UTEP. They can be staring a bowl game right in the eyes if their first 4 games they start off the season 3-1. That would be a phenomenal start. So we'll see what happens. Las Vegas Aces. I did go to the game. I'm laughing because the Sky are just so bad. It's just such bad basketball. They're such a terrible
They're a playoff team. What are you talking about?
Oh, my God. That team is so terrible. Listen, the Aces were in control the entire game. Asia Wilson had another nice performance. I'm still standing by what I said earlier, and I hope I'm wrong, but unlike some people, when it comes to UNLV, when it comes to the Knights, I try not to be biased. Even when it comes to the Aces, I try to be honest on the air, not biased. I could want a team to win, but I'm still going to be honest. I still don't think the Aces are the best team in the league. I still think the New York Liberty are the better team because of matchups, not because necessarily of talent or the roster or coaches. It's a bad matchup for the Aces from a physical perspective. So we'll see when we get there.
Speaking of foregone conclusions, right, Brian Shapiro? I think it's a foregone conclusion. A lot of people just expect it's going to be the New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA Finals. And if it's anything short of that, it's going to be a disappointment, I think, to WNBA fans.
Agree. Before we go, Chris, could I just get one more singing performance from you of this bowl
I'm not
game?
a great singer.
'Cause I'm getting some requests.
Although I will say this, I can sing certain karaoke songs okay, but I don't think I'm an outstanding singer. It was off the cuff, Shap. That's how I rolled with that description of the bowl game. That is the what, Numchuck?
It's
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.weedeater.com bowl. Early in the bowl season, where the UNLV Rebels will be playing the Sanford Pirates. I don't even know what Sanford's nickname is, but on an ESPN News bowl game in early December.
By the way,
down.
I can predict the future. I know we got some Monday Night Football games that we're going to be watching.
2 games tonight. Division games.
I can predict the future, though. I might be at C. Wynn's house later tonight after the games, listening to him argue with his roommate about politics and ridiculous, crazy things. That could be a possibility tonight.
It might not just be me and my housemate. It might be me, you, my housemate, and our other buddy, whose initials will remain nameless. MV.
His initials are MAGA.
Who has who has wild takes too when it comes to politics. And by wild I mean terrible.
Yes,
but that's
absolutely terrible. All right, we're gonna grab some lunch. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great day.